Donald Trump had faced threats before, from political rivals to media attacks, even a murder attempt at one of his rallies. However, nothing could have prepared him for the events unfolding before him. The White House was under attack. Gunshots resounded throughout the halls, explosions here and there shaking the ground. And the unthinkable was happening. The most secure building in the world had been infiltrated. His security team hurried him into the presidential bunker, but a chilling phone call made his blood run cold. "You're not safe there either. You need to move." The voice on the other end was unknown. The line couldn't be traced. Within moments, all communications with the outside world had gone dark. The attackers were getting close. Finding himself in an escape route known only to a few, Trump ended up in the back of a blacked-out SUV, speeding toward the one location he thought he could rely on: Secret Service headquarters. Unfortunately, as he entered, the frigid glares from the agents surrounding him sent chills down his spine. Something felt off. When the director presented him with a classified file labeled Operation Falcon, Trump understood that the true threat wasn't external. It was lurking within. Months after Donald Trump had won the United States election to run his tenure, things were beginning to look bright for the American people. Trump had fought tooth and nail to get re-elected after he had not been re-elected immediately after his first tenure. Things were so heated that Donald Trump got shot during his rally, to let people understand that he could make America great again. With the heat from the gunshot and trolling he received from people who didn't want him to win the election, he pushed on until he finally won. This wouldn't have been possible without the people's support, and he was going to make them proud. From his first tenure, he knew that there would always be people who didn't approve of him and would go to any length to sabotage him and make him look bad to the people. They knew his policies and agendas didn't match theirs. It was one of those mornings when he had to get to the White House, have meetings, and strategize to protect his country from internal and external forces. He was running late for his meeting with his military generals, who were coordinating with the U.S. Marines to make sure no problem or harm would come their way, seeing as Russia took the first step to declaring war with the United States because Donald Trump won the election. As Donald Trump prepared, his motorcade was already waiting as usual to take him to the White House for his meeting. He went downstairs with his security detail from the house, and they headed straight outside and into his vehicle, which was meant specifically for him. As they drove through Washington, D.C. that morning, Donald Trump noticed some people on the street with placards, all preparing as if going to a protest, and wondered what was happening. When he arrived at the White House, he headed straight for the conference room, where his generals were already waiting for him so they could begin their strategy meeting. As the meeting progressed, Donald Trump got a text from an unknown contact that read, "Leave the White House now. Your life is in danger." He saw the message but smiled and dropped his phone, ignoring it. Just as his generals left, he heard an explosion that also affected his building. His security details came in to keep him safe, as was standard protocol, until they could determine the level of threat they were facing and move him. A few minutes later, over the secure channel the security team used, they could hear gunshots as other members of his security were getting shot by unknown men. This got Donald Trump worried, so his head of security called for the presidential bunker to be opened so that Donald Trump could be taken there immediately. So, they began moving. The gunshots got louder as they moved. These unknown armed men were getting closer, so they had to hasten their movement. When they reached the already opened bunker, they could hear the screams of some of the men they left behind to safeguard the route. These unknown armed men were coordinated and had a plan. They beat the Secret Service, military, and even Donald Trump's security personnel in the building. They knew what they were doing, and Donald Trump wasn't going to let anything happen to him. They got into the bunker and closed it behind them. Donald Trump's phone rang, and a voice came from the other end. "You're not safe there either. You need to move," said the voice before the call got hung up. Donald Trump asked the tech team in the bunker to trace the call, but they reported that they couldn't do so as the call was made from a burner phone. He was frustrated. "Do I stay or do I go?" were the questions he kept asking himself. In the history of the United States, no force had ever advanced on the White House, not to even boast of making the president use the presidential bunker. Something was off. Something wasn't right. In the bunker, they checked to see what was happening outside via newsfeed, but their attackers were prepared for that. They had gotten close to the bunker and jammed all communications with the outside world except for Donald Trump's phone. Notifications from newsfeeds kept pouring in, and within minutes, he lost his mind because he didn't know what was happening. As if it weren't enough, they could hear a battering ram, as if these gunmen were trying to enter. The bunker was not enough to protect him. If these men could chase him down there, the men in the bunkers wouldn't save him. Donald Trump could not think of a way out of this situation. "Sir, there might still be a way to get you out, but we have to be fast," one of the security men mentioned. "What is the percentage of success?" Donald Trump asked, trying to keep calm. "If we leave now, then it's at 60%, the man responded. "What happens to the rest of the staff?" Donald Trump asked. "My priority is to protect and keep you safe, and I cannot do that if we are still here," the man responded. "Okay, let's go," Donald Trump said, agreeing with the security man. The man took Donald Trump to a corner of the bunker and asked him to place his palm on the wall in front of him. Donald Trump did as asked, and a scanner became obvious, scanning his palm. A small passageway opened up, and Donald Trump and a few of his team members went in first. Only a few people knew of this passageway, and when the White House was renovated, it was removed from the building plan. They followed the underground passageway, leading to a parking space far from the White House. As soon as they got there, they called for backup, and a fleet of cars came in to take Donald Trump and his escaped team. "Hi, Donald Trump. I was not expecting us to meet under such circumstances. However, you were the one who put me as your top security aide and personnel if ever there was an emergency like this," a familiar voice said from the front of the vehicle. Donald Trump couldn't tell who it was because his mind was a mess, and he still could not bring himself to believe that the White House was overrun by unknown armed men. "Please calm down. You will be safe where we are headed," the voice told Donald Trump, as he could see the fear in Trump's eyes despite his composure. Donald closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He opened his eyes and caught a glance of who was talking to him. It was Wade Wilson. Wade was Special Forces and had worked with Donald Trump during Trump's first tenure. It was Wade who helped him when he got shot at the rally and moved him while applying first aid to the injury. Wade was good at what he did, so the Secret Service recruited him to work for them. He was only to be on the ground if there was a need for him. Donald Trump was glad Wade came to pick him up, while the rest of the team went with other Secret Service members. The vehicles split in different directions, 2 vehicles per team. Wade told Donald Trump that standard procedure meant he would take him to the Secret Service headquarters until the culprits were apprehended. However, he was taking Donald Trump to the headquarters for a different reason. Donald Trump got curious and asked Wade why, but Wade responded that he didn't know all the details. At the moment, his family was safe and out of the country until things cooled down, and he was the only one left. Wade also added that he was the primary target of the armed men, and they needed to get to the headquarters as soon as possible. The gunmen entered the bunker at the White House, but Donald Trump wasn't there, so they contacted external parties. These parties started by attacking the different teams created as diversions to throw the gunmen off their track and give them enough time to get to the headquarters. After driving for a while, they ditched their cars. The other cars were already waiting for them with a new set of Secret Service agents, but Wade was the only one who remained to control their movements. They entered the new vehicles and drove out. The new vehicles took a new route, while the previous ones returned the same way they came to see if they were followed. They drove around the neighborhood where the car swap was made to ensure they were not still followed before arriving at a car park. At the car park, Wade asked the rest of the team to gear up and prepare for anything so they wouldn't be surprised. After everyone had checked their guns and ammunition, they entered a different car, and as usual, Donald Trump was in the same car as Wade, just that this time Wade was not driving. He sat in the passenger seat beside the driver. He kept assuring Donald Trump that they would get to safety. Gunshots could be heard across the city, and most of the vehicles radioed in for backup, but to no avail. Wade knew there was a leak, and without scaring Donald Trump, he asked him to take off his blazer from the black suit he had on and throw it outside alongside his phone, too. Donald Trump did as was instructed, but it was too late, because by the next turn, they came upon heavy fire from armed men, and they had to swerve off the planned road, which was agreed upon by the Secret Service, into a building. Wade called for backup and did all he could to keep Donald Trump safe as he exited the car. Finally, backup came, and they were in safe hands. The rest of the ride to the headquarters was without any problems. Donald Trump, who was worried, gave out a sigh of relief as help came and took him alongside Wade to the headquarters. Donald Trump removed his red tie and unbuttoned his suit jacket as his vehicle entered the Secret Service headquarters. The sun shone so bright on the vehicle's tinted glass that Donald Trump thought even the sun was against him. As they entered and Donald Trump got out of the car, he sighed in relief, but then he looked around him and knew something was off about the whole place. He could feel the cold stare the agents around him were giving him. His mind raced back and forth because he didn't know what he could have done to deserve such treatment from people he would naturally call his own. The director of the Secret Service, James Reynolds, came out and greeted him with a firm handshake. "Mr. President, welcome. We have been expecting you." "Sorry it had to be under such circumstances," Donald Trump said as he shook Reynolds' hand. "Shall we go inside?" Reynolds asked. "Yes, please. The sooner we get to the bottom of these, the better. I have a country to run," Donald Trump replied as he began to walk into the building. The building had a lot of activity going on, and they were all in preparation for Donald Trump's arrival, which was not originally part of the day's agenda. Agents moved swiftly, setting up barricades and traps in case they came under attack. Just like the White House, their faces were focused and serious. Nobody wanted to lose their life, and enough blood had already been shed. As Trump walked through the metal detectors, the alarms rang. As was the procedure, they had him walk through the detector again, and the same thing happened. "False alarm, I assume?" Donald Trump asked, raising an eyebrow because he was sure nothing was metallic on him. Reynolds looked uneasy. "Let me check. It is all to keep you safe, sir," he said, signaling a nearby technician. The technician came and had Donald Trump's body scanned. The scan result showed something embedded in his right arm. A few medical personnel on the ground took Donald Trump to a room and removed what was in his arm. It was a tracking device. How did that get there? Donald Trump asked himself as he wore his clothes and went back outside to be screened again by the metal detector. Moments later, the alarm stopped, but the tension in the air grew thicker. This was way beyond what anyone expected to happen. They entered a high-security room marked Classified Operations. Trump had seen many things during his first term as president, but the contents of the large screen inside the room made him pause. The screen displayed information on many people. Phone calls were monitored, and text messages and chats were screened. Donald Trump followed Reynolds into another room marked High Priority. Upon entering, he could not hold himself back from asking the question he should have asked in the first room. "What's this?" he asked, stepping closer. The screen displayed live feeds from hundreds of hidden surveillance cameras. At first, he couldn't quite tell the areas he was looking at until his eyes caught one that showed a particular set of furniture. No, it couldn't be. It was his private office. Trump recognized it immediately. It was the office his wife named the Mar-a-Lago. "Why are you monitoring my estate?" Donald Trump's voice hardened. He was furious, scared, worried, and many other emotions were hitting him. He needed an explanation. "Someone had better have a good explanation as to why my estate is being monitored," he barked. Reynolds hesitated, then took a deep breath before answering. "Mr. President, there's something you need to know." Reynolds led Trump to a glass-walled briefing room and handed him a classified folder marked Operation Falcon. "I think it is time we finally told you everything," Reynolds said as he handed him the file immediately. Trump opened the file, and his eyes scanned through the pages. His face filled with rage as he read the words, "Infiltration, internal threat, target, Donald Trump. What is this nonsense? Are you trying to play me as a fool?" Trump shouted as he was already too angry. He threw the folder on the table before facing Reynolds and held Reynolds by the throat. "Start explaining!" His words filled with rage before he pushed Reynolds away so he could breathe properly and give him a proper explanation. Reynolds took a deep breath and started. "Sir, for months, we have been investigating a rogue group operating from inside the Secret Service, and someone close to you has been and still is working against you." Donald Trump's eyes lit up with rage. "Who is it? Who betrayed my trust in them?" Reynolds pressed a button, and the glass of the briefing room changed to reveal a hidden camera feed. Donald Trump's jaw dropped as he saw the face on the screen. No, it couldn't be. His trusted security advisor, David Shane, was meeting with an unidentified figure. "Is that Shane?" Trump's voice was low. "This is impossible. Shane has been with me for years, from my first tenure as president to now. There is no way he would do this to me. You must be mistaken." "Sir, we have evidence that he leaked confidential information to the enemy," Reynolds said firmly, and this time with confidence. "And that is not all, sir. He has been accessing your private files." "Where is Shane?" Trump asked as his blood pumped with rage. "He came in today. Cameras spotted him entering the facility, and we are sure he has not clocked out yet," Reynolds replied. Donald Trump hit his fist hard on the table and barked with annoyance. "Find him. Use all available resources at your disposal to bring him in." Agents moved quickly, and David Shane was brought into the room within minutes. His face looked pale, but his expression was calm. "Mr. President, how are you doing? I heard what happened. It is good to see you are safe," he said as if nothing was wrong. "Cut the act," Donald Trump barked at him. "Why did you betray me? How could you do this to me? I never expected this from you." Shane took a deep breath and sighed. "I didn't betray you, and I would never betray you," he said quietly. "All I did was for you. I did it all to protect you." The room fell silent. His words seemed to have changed the atmosphere of the room. Though quietly said, his words felt genuine. "Shane, you mean you were protecting me?" Trump echoed. "From what? From who? How?" Shane looked up at Reynolds before speaking. He answered Donald Trump, "There is a deeper conspiracy within the government. There are powerful people who want to silence you. I infiltrated their ranks to stop them. If you expose me, you lose your only ally on the inside, and all my sacrifice would be in vain." Reynolds looked surprised. "Why didn't you tell us? I'm sure you are lying. There is no way you knew something like this and didn't run it by me." "I didn't because I couldn't trust anyone," Shane said. "The deeper I went in their organizations and the higher I went in their ranks, the more I realized how far this goes. They are watching everything, every movement, every action taken. I mean everything. Even now." He paused and added, "They know what we all had for breakfast, the color of undies we are putting on, what we have for lunch, and all the access codes we think we hide. Nothing is hidden with these people," Shane said, with fear in his voice. Donald Trump folded his arms. "Prove it, Shane. You must have something to show for it if you claim to be protecting me." "First off, they planned the attack at the White House. They knew everything to the smallest of details. The first text you got was from me. The burner phone is still in my car because I used it to call you and warn you, but you didn't think it was genuine, so you ignored it. That should stand for something," Shane replied. "That is not enough, Shane. For all all we know, you could have been trying to spook him so that they would be able to do whatever they wanted with him, Reynolds said as he clenched his fist in anger. I wouldn't lie to the president, not after all he has done for me, Shane said out of respect. Shane, help us overcome this challenge. Give us something to use to protect ourselves and the president, Reynolds said as he placed his palm on Shane's shoulder. Shane asked to be uncuffed, and immediately, his hands were free. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small encrypted drive. This has everything: names, dates, plans. But if they find out I gave it to you, we're all targets. He handed the drive to Donald Trump, who took it. His mind was spinning, and he couldn't believe his ears. But from seeing how Shane looked, he knew Shane was telling the truth. Donald Trump looked at Reynolds. If this is true, we've got a war coming and must act fast. Shane raised his head to meet Donald Trump's gaze. The war is not coming. It's already here. Donald Trump held the drive tightly, thinking about what Shane said. We need to start planning and be ready, Trump said. This is not just a political game. It's a fight for our future. Shane nodded. I'll start making the calls. We don't have any time to waste. As they left the room, they knew the war had already started and were ready to face it. Together, they would fight to protect their country and ensure a better future for everyone. What are your thoughts on the attack on the White House? Do you think Shane is telling the truth? If yes, who are the bad guys? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this video was interesting, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen. See you next time.